motion to approve the rulings, South Moon rulings.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was unanimous. Thank you. Now, we'll go to new business, public hearing on the following proposed rule changes. USB.
Anybody that wants a copy, I made a bunch of extra copies of these rule changes up here. They're on the table. So if anybody wants one, they're right there. You want one?
And let me say, we've gotten some people I don't recognize, and if you want to be recognized or say something, please raise your hand and introduce yourself.
What I thought I'd do is go over the rule change and then ask for any public comments. So anybody wants to make comments after I've just gone over the rule, we'll ask for public comments and record those comments. Chairman, the first, we've got 7 rules. These have all been reviewed by OCLON, the HPPA, VET, and the rest of the commission staff. 1217.3 is the first rule. This is an amendment to the rule. In the red, what you see in red would be taken out. So those paragraphs are taken out. And the blue is what would be added to the rule. And you can have shockwave therapy, but it's got to be disclosed to the commission vet no less than 48 hours prior to the use and shall not be permitted unless following conditions are met. And that it has conditions. This is essentially the HISA rule. Then if you look at the second page of 1217.3, it's got the attending veterinarian and the trainer may be suspended from the race for a period of 5 days. It goes on up. There's repeated suspensions. There was a slight change made on that. Originally, we had the commission vet, and it was a mistake. It meant to be the attending vet. You wouldn't suspend the commission vet, obviously. So that has been changed to say the attending vet. So 1217.3, do any of the commissioners have any questions about Rule 1217.3? Any public comments about Rule 1217.3?
Myron, I have a question about
Okay.
that. Our commission veterinarian, Dr. Locane, because he looked at this,
He
thought
has.
about that, can he handle this added responsibilities?
I didn't make that announcement. Dr. Lokank has gone over all of these rules and talked to me and others involved, the HPBA and to Smokey. I've had telephone conversations with him. He has signed off on this language.
And it is, there's been so many meetings, I hate to say, but between HISA and everybody else, but everybody seems to be getting along and trying to get it done.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As Byron indicated, these were suggestions from Dr. Lokank, and to be consistent with the HISA rules that Byron will discuss in a minute, some of the deletions here basically will come back in with the HISA rules.
And the good news is Oakland was doing a lot of these things that HISA wanted already, but might be called the wrong name, things like that, so you can go on.
Well, the HISA rules, they say HISA. Skip and I've been saying HISA, but when you talk to HISA, they say HISA. So anyway, those rules are supposed to come into effect January 1, 2023, but everything's been delayed, and so we don't know whether they'll be adopted on time or not. So we're adopting these rules, which could be just in effect for December, and then the HISA or HISA rules could come into effect on January 1. We'll just have to wait and see.
Do we need to approve each of these individually?
Yes, I guess if there's anybody on the audio that wants to make a comment about them, no opportunity. Hearing no public comments, we need a motion by the commission to approve the amendment to Rule 1217.3.
I so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Do I a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Landers. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This is Commissioner East, I'm on.
Okay, thank you. Let the record show it was unanimous.
The next rule is Thoroughbred Rule 1218, and I've got that, you can get a copy of it. And basically what, Rule 1218 suggestion is to remove paragraphs B, 1, and 2, and where it says non-invasive treatments, massage therapy, and so and so may be administered, that's taken out. So they would not be able to be administered anymore. Used to be administered, it was before 6 p.m. the day before the race, you could do that. But to be consistent with the HISA rule, these two paragraphs are, the suggestion is to remove these two paragraphs. These have been reviewed by HPVA, they've been reviewed by our veterinarian and all others. So any questions on the commission on the amendment to Rule 1218?
And Mr. Commissioners, you can read this in light of the next one, 1219, that Byron will discuss, because it's trying again to make our rules more consistent with the new rules we'll be putting in 1219 from HISA.
That's a good way out of it.
Any comments from the public on Rule 12, amendments to Rule 1218? Any comments from anyone on the telephone? Have you heard no comments? So the question be the commission to approve the adoption of the amendment of Rule 1218.
Can I have a motion on Rule 1218?
Make motion, Mr. Chairman, we approve.
Thank you, Mr.
Rule
Landers.
1218.
Do I have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Post. Vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously. Thank you.
The next rule is Thoroughbred Rule 1219. This is a markup, and it's in all blue, so this is all new. Remember, the red is things that are being deleted, and blue means it's being added to the rules. This is from the HISA rule, and it's following your prohibited practices is A, B, C, D, E, and F. So these are all prohibited practices. Our veterinarian has looked at these, the HPVA has looked at it and given their approval, and NOCLON has. So, Skip, any comments on?
No, sir, again, as Byron noted, it's just, these are to be consistent with what HISA's rules are.
They're basically what they call fiscal veterinary practices or procedures that they're making, that they allow or don't allow.
Thoroughbred rule, can I have a motion on 1219, please?
Well, let me see if there's any public comment on Rule 1219. Any comment from anybody on the telephone? Hearing no comment, it's appropriate for a motion.
Move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Do we have a second?
Second to motion.
Thank you, Mr. Post. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, unanimous, passes. Thank you.
The next rule is 2099.1. This is, I believe this came from the HPVA. This is a rule to give more time for workouts. Goes from 30 to 45 days. And then the stewards may give an additional 7 days. The blue part on the second page, stewards can give an additional 7 days. I think they had some problems with the track may be closed for weather events, and there's not availability for people to train or exercise. So it gives them more time to get into training or exercising that is required before they can run. And this was a suggestion by the HPVA, is my understanding. And our staff and the veterinarians looked at it, and they had no problems. Skip, any?
No, sir, that's correct, and it's just to give them a little more leeway. It gives the stewards, if the track has been closed for some weather-related issue or other issue for workouts, it gives them the ability to extend that for 7 days.
I think if we had a really big event, they could come to the commission could grant the waiver. But anyway, this makes it easier for the horseman, I think. So, any comments from the public on Rule 2099.1? Any comments made by on the telephone? If not, it's appropriate for a motion.
Okay. We'd like to have a motion, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Blammer. Have a second? I'll second. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Again, pass unanimous. Thank you.
The next rule is 2128A. And this rule has been changed a little since it first went out. Since the use of a handheld communication device by a rider is prohibited while the rider is riding a horse, 1, in a race, or 2, training or exercising on the track. When this originally went out, it just was riding on the track, and there were some suggested changes. We made it training and exercising, which I thought were good suggestions, and I think everybody has signed off on this. But a jockey can't have a handheld device when they're riding in a race, training, or exercising on the track. And this was a suggestion from the horseman.
It wouldn't prohibit what you see with the ear, where a trainer is communicating through an ear device that the jockey has, just where he's trying to control the horse. The parties didn't think that was good from a safety standpoint to have some cell phone in your hand or something while you were riding.
Well, a few places where you won't be able to have your cell phone out, huh?
Can the jockeys wear earbuds during the race and be communicated with?
I don't think that's allowed during a race, just in training. I don't know if there's a specific rule for that, but I doubt the stewards would allow that in a race. But I'm not aware of a specific rule.
That would be an interesting conversation.
Might be a one-way conversation.
They don't listen to you anyway.
Any comments from the public on Rule 2128? It prohibits a jockey from using a handheld communication device. Any comments from people on the phone? It's not to be appropriate for a motion at this time.
Okay. Can I have a motion on 2128A, please?
Motion to approve Rule 2128A.
Thank you, Mr. Post.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Anthony. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? To show it unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Next rule is Rule 2260, and this, I believe, came from the HPBA, if I'm not mistaken. It changes the percentages which would be paid to horses that were participating in the race. I think there may be some discussion about this more within the last year, and this was an effort by the HPBA, is my understanding. Skip, is that correct?
That's correct. It's to spread it out a little bit more among those who don't get a large share of the purse by finishing, first, second, third, fourth, and so it kind of spreads it back. And it divides it into stakes races and non-stakes races in distributing the money. It basically says that 1 1/2% of the purse would be paid to those horses finishing 5th through last. So, and there's an example of how that works. And then the balance, after you pay 1.5% to each of the 5th through the last place, the balance goes 65% to the winner, 20% to place, 10% to show, and 5% to fourth. And there's provisions to deal with situations where you have short deals and how you would distribute the purse. Yeah, just for example, four starters and whatnot. The balance would go back into the purse fund for the 5th place, basically.
It's divided into stakes races and non-stakes races.
And then non-stakes races, it's 60, 20, 10, 5, and then the remaining 5% divided equally among the official starters in the race.
And the horsemen are fine.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna quote a prominent trainer who told me we are promoting mediocrity.
Yes, we are.
Some trainers don't like it.
I understand. So there could be some people that are getting all the money and, more of the money, and so the issue is kind of spreading little bit of the purse to some of the
Well,
others.
so it-
To help the fields
And
and
the
those
issue
areas.
is also to get people to enter,
Yes,
to run 7.
to get more horses, yeah, correct.
That's a question that I had was, for example, take the Arkansas Derby, it's $1 million purse. What does it cost to start and enter the Arkansas Derby?
Yeah, they went through that with, I don't have that in front of me, Jason could probably make comment, but that's part of it, is you're trying to attract people to travel to Hot Springs, Arkansas from faraway distances, and getting them to come, making sure that if they come and they don't, finish first, second.
Well, I'm not so much worried about that, I'm worried about the nag that's in the barn that trainers can enter and earn $15,000 for coming in last.
Well, those are, you can have.
It's not a good
entries.
optic at all.
You can have entries, and it is, designed to increase the field size. And that's.
Well, I think we can all agree, we don't want a $5,000 claimer running in the Arkansas Derby so we can make $15,000 for running last.
I think that's right.
Well, it's about trifectas and pick 4s, pick 5s. I'm not against it. I do
No,
think-
I understand.
I think it's just,
think
it's
we
a
need-
valid point that you're bringing a horse in to run 7, and he has no shot to win the race, and he gets in the way.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Of horses that have legitimate credentials to be in the race, but.
I think we need to understand these are not written in stone, and so we've been asked to try this and see how it works. If it doesn't work, and we do have problems, like Commissioner Anthony's comment, we can change it.
Stewards can, if they see something that they don't think's quite right, can bring it up. And, I think not only for the big races that you're talking about, Steve, but I think, with HISA in this thing, everybody's costs are going up. And if you don't, there's some that are gonna get starved out if we don't come up with something. And a lot of the races, the big stake races, are written with preferences that keep a lot of the other horses out a lot of times.
If you have a full field, if you have an overflow field.
Right. Which it doesn't happen that often. But I don't know if it only pertains to a full field or not. I really don't know.
That's preference.
Yeah, it'd have to be a full field,
Okay.
full preference, yes. To answer Mr. Anthony's question, the start entry fee for Arkansas Derby is $15,000. 7,500 to enter, 7,500 to start.
So that's probably, you go down the list like a $200,000 race, it would be proportional to that.
Right.
So you,
Yes. You're looking
So-
at 2,000.
So the fifth place horse in the Arkansas Derby gets what now?
I don't.
well, under this rule, it would be $15,000.
That,
We basically cover their entry fees.
okay. You asked for comment?
And again, if this doesn't work, the commission surely can, we'll be back to change it. But that's been the suggestion of the group of horsemen and Oaklawn, try to do something in this regard.
This is in place in other jurisdictions I've seen.
In different form,
Right.
yes, sir.
So it works well for them, I think.
Yes.
Well, as an owner, that's great, I like it, but if it doesn't work, HISA will just bring the hammer down and tell us how we're gonna do it anyway, so.
I don't think HISA has anything on the person.
I don't think, I don't think that, not yet.
Well, that covers any of these rules.
Yeah, that's correct.
We're gonna be free until December 31st, and after that, who knows?
Well, again, the non-medication rules are gonna be in effect at the start of the racing season, December 9. It's just the medication rules wouldn't be in effect till January 1, unless they have done something different because of our season. But the general ISA racing-related rules, other than medication rules, are in effect now. They came in effect July 1, and you're seeing it at other tracks. A lot of difficulties with the jockey whip rule and what jockeys can do with the whip, and
you know, the only one that escaped this whole deal was the farms. And I would love, when I'm buying a yearling, to have his medical records from day one that would show different surgeries and all that. But politically, people behind this deal, you know, made sure to exclude the farms, in my opinion. But anyway, this is not perfect by any stretch of imagination. We kind of always, okay, if the Horseman comes to agreement, and Old Line kind of comes to agreement, we've generally gone, unless we see something really wrong with it. So that's my thought, but.
Any comments by the public on Rule
Can I-
2260?
Mark, you had mentioned that some trainers were not in favor of this. You know, was there some conflict within the HBPA over this?
That I don't know.
There wasn't in our meetings, and it was a unanimous vote.
No one spoke against it?
No.
Unanimous vote?
Yes, that we had.
And I will say there, I used to be on the board of APPA. There are probably, what, 10 members
Yes.
that show up?
Yes.
And there's a lot of trainers that don't show up.
Don't
No.
vote.
And they don't care, they're not gonna.
They don't
they're not
go to the
gonna-
track meeting, they don't go to,
They
you know.
don't.
But, Mr. Chairman, we're through, I'll make a motion to approve Thoroughbred Rule 2260.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Post. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Somebody reminded me, I asked for public comments on 2260, I think we did.
Thank you.
I think,
Vote, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
The last rule is Thoroughbred Rule 2444, and it's a claiming, and it's my understanding this was a proposal from the HPBA, is that right, Skip?
Yes, sir, and what this is, it basically, in simple terms, if someone gets a horse claim, they get a claiming preference for their next claim. So if they're, if the person that has a claiming, I get a horse claimed, then next week I have a claiming preference. So if I put in a claim and I'm the only person that puts in a claim for that horse that has a claiming preference, and there's 3 other people, there's no shake, I get it, because I have the claiming preference. Then I lose that claiming preference, it goes away, I get the horse. If you have 2 or more put in a claim, and each of them have a claiming preference, then they're the only ones that get to participate in the shake. And it's just to give someone who loses a horse a step up to get another horse back. And this has been suggested by the HBPA again.
And the operation field. That's because a lot of these guys, they come in and all of a sudden they get wiped out of horses.
Yes, sir.
And then some of the other people I've heard, you know, is always, they might be claiming for a horse, but it might be 3 different entities that's claiming for that horse that, if you look deeper, might be connected.
Yes, sir. This has a provision in it that the claiming preference may only be utilized by the exact owner to whom the claiming preference was awarded.
Okay.
Any comments by the public? Anybody on the phone? No.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Landers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. Record shows it was unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, what we have done today, this is a public hearing under Arkansas law to consider and adopt these rules. We now have to submit these to the legislature for review, which we will do, and hopefully they will review these promptly, and they would be in effect if they're approved by the legislature beginning December 1. So, and I have submitted them to the governor's office, and I have submitted them to the legislative review, but I do not have a date yet to appear before the legislative review subcommittee. And that normally happens, you know, it's normally not a problem. But in order for these to be adopted, they have to be reviewed by the legislature and approved.
Thank you. Okay. And by the way, we lost a good friend in the governor's office who's been very helpful to us on several, Bill Gossage. He took a different job now, but he's been a very much helpful for the horsemen. He has horses, loves horse racing, so it was good to have him in that position over there. but he's no longer there, reached to another level. Okay, we're on the consideration approval of Oaklawn license, racing license for December.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You previously submitted to you our proposed race dates for the racing season of 68 days that begins December 9 and goes through May 6, I believe, is indicated. And this is just our license, that racing license application. Previously approved the racing dates, and this is just the license to be able to race. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that. And I'll answer any questions if anybody has any questions.
And it worked in how many days?
68.
68.
And that's within the amount allowable under Arkansas law.
What is the amount allowable? I forgot.
68 during the
68.
calendar year.
Oh, okay, in the calendar.
So we have to count on a calendar year basis, but we're counting that.
If you leave Thursday, the April Thursday date's open for maybe makeup, weather makeup, or you race on Thursday through March, but then in April you go back to Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That's correct. Jason may be able to comment better than I can on that, but I think that was just worked out with the HBTA and to have some additional days during March.
And also to stay within the 68 days. That was the main thing, so.
And we have, in the past, adjusted it a little bit if we need not the amount of days, but they would come in and start racing on, if bad weather hits and we gotta go to even a Wednesday, Thursday, or sometimes we have done that.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We need a motion on that? I would entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve the racing days.
Thank you, Mr. Post. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Record show it was unanimous in favor. Thank you. And now we're up to the Oaklawn request.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two requests, and I've put a couple of charts in front of you that makes it easier to see and explain. The first request was in process before the second request that I'll get to, and that involves a request for John Sella's revocable trust to transfer a little over 17%, 17.312% limited partnership interest in one of the limited partnerships shown there that owns a minority interest in Oaklawn's parent company, Southwestern Enterprises. And so it's a minority request to transfer a minority limited partnership interest in a limited partnership that owns a minority interest to the Sella Generational Trust, which is a trust for John's children and descendants. They are the only beneficiaries of the trust. It's similar to the trust that you previously approved for Louis Sella several years ago. And the trustee of that trust is Lisa Adams, who's John's state attorney up in St. Louis. That will be a temporary thing given my next request, but that request, or that process, that was in process before the second part of the transaction that I'll describe later, and they wanted to get that in place before the second part of the transaction. And so that is the first request, is a transfer of that limited partnership interest in that limited partnership to the Sella Generational Trust. Then the second request I have would be after that is done, is you get you see the existing ownership chart. There's several trusts for John Sella that are reflected there that own interest directly or indirectly in Oaklawn's parent company, Southwestern Enterprises. There's John's Revocable Trust and some GST exempt and non-exempt trusts that own indirect interest through the various family limited partnerships and their general partner LLCs that own the voting and non-voting stock of Oaklawn's parent company, Southwestern Enterprises. And the second part of our request is to allow the distribution of the Southwestern Enterprises voting and non-voting stock indirectly owned by John's trust to those trusts, and then have Southwestern enterprises redeem those stocks, with the result being that John's trust will be bought out, and the only remaining owners will be as shown on the the second pro forma that is in front of you, that shows the ownership of the limited partnership solely in Lewis's trusts. And so Lewis is trustee of those trusts, and Rochelle is trustee of the Descendants Trust. But Lewis will control all the vote and the lion's share of all of the ownership interest through those trusts. And all the lion's share of all of the interest will be owned by Lewis's trust for benefit of Lewis and his children. Other than that, a little less than 2% interest in one of the limited partnerships that's owned by Lewis's sister, Harriet. So just looking at the pro forma chart, that would be how it would look after the requested redemption transaction takes place. And there's no real change of control. Lewis will remain in complete control. We will amend and do a little refinancing with Bank of America for part of the transaction that the Oaklawn and Southwestern are part of. I don't believe that the resulting refinance debt is higher than what the highest point of the debt was after the reconstruction, but that will be refinanced at that point. And then John will be financing some of the purchase himself over a multi-year payout period. There will be real estate interests that are set. There's a lot of, there's different parts of the parent company that, other than Oaklawn, that are involved here, that real estate interest and whatnot, and will be distributed to John, and John will go on and continue to manage those, which he has been managing the real estate side of things now too. So that is generally the request, but the transaction is, as after the resulting redemptions, would be as set forth in the pro forma chart that shows the direct and indirect ownership of Southwestern after the transaction.
But basically, the ownership is still within the Sello family.
Mainly, 99% of it is, or 98 or 9%, actually more than 99% would be Lewis's trust. And Lewis is still in control of the voting interest and the decision making on all of that.
We've all been through something similar, but it's a headache, but it has to be done. So does anybody have any discussion about it? If not, I would take a motion. Do we need a motion on both items?
Yes, or you can approve them both at the same time, however you want to do it.
Byron, you want us to do them both together or separate?
I think you can do them both together.
All right. I would entertain a motion on the seller's request.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion. Are we making a motion to accept the entity ownership chart in the pro forma chart?
Yes, sir. That would be the resulting ownership. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the entity ownership chart and the pro forma SW-Oaklawn Jockey Club entity ownership chart as presented by Mr. Eagle.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I have a second, Mr. Landers. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. I apologize, I go too quick before you phone it. Let the record show that it passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eagle. Now we've got Southland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are here today seeking approval, permission from the commission for the granting of a perfected security interest in Southland shares. This is part of a refinancing that's going on with the companies. As part of this security deal, the collateral, part of the
understanding that there would be a security interest in favor of the bank on the stock and the real estate, but not on the gambling, but maybe it will.
I believe that it would.
Okay.
But not the license. So you
Not
can-
the license, but you have to approve based on the gambling equipment standards. So they're taking out a loan for all the improvements that were made over there. And so they have submitted a very thick stack of documents that I have reviewed, which are proprietary to Southland because they contain information that would help a competitor, so they're not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. But I think their request is legitimate.
And much of it, look, it still comes down that Racing Commission has the power over the license. So, you know, if somebody gets a loan from Al Capone and goes bad, Al Capone's not gonna be running the casino. So,
So you're basically just refinancing everything except the license, I mean, and using it as collateral, basically.
All the assets of South.
The real estate, okay.
But the license would not be.
The license
would be-
remains our-
There would be no security interest or lien on the license.
That's right, that's an excluded collateral.
okay. Do I have a motion on Southland's request?
Motion to approve the South.
Chairman, I'll make that motion, Commissioner East.
Chairman, thank you, sir.
I'll second this
That
motion.
was, I appreciate stepping aside. We have a motion from the dog chairman and second by Mr. Post. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Favor, it goes unanimous, thank you. Then we have Mr. Saris.
Thank you very much. May I be excused?
Yes, sir, thank you very much. One question I had though, I'll answer. Denny, did they get that other problem worked out?
Yes, sir, I think so.
All right.
Which was just a change, just to bring it up to speed. We had set the last day of running dogs on the 31st, which is an agreement between Southland and the Kennel Association, and they asked to, Governor North asked to move it up to the 28th to accommodate their schedule and to all be here on the last day the dogs run. And with some discussion about changing those dates, moving up, losing 3 days of dog racing, the 31st to the 28th, and would that affect their agreement in terms of their money that they're getting to close the deal? I talked to Chairman Lelong, and he talked to Tom Kennedy, and we're all satisfied that the monies will be the same regardless of the losing the 3 days of racing. So I think everything is just fine. And I talked to Robert Thorne, head of the Kennel Association. He's good with it too, so I think we're good.
Thank you very much. It was, on there. Now we have Saracen, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute, on that, do we need to vote on that days?
I think we voted on Steve's request for Southland, but I don't think we need, well, if they're gonna change the days you approve, you need to vote on the change of the days. They just need to be approved. Like, if they're, they can't change the total number of racing days, but they changed the dates. And we have approved other dates that the commission needs to approve the change.
And, Mr. Chairman, we would bring that before the commission when all of that is worked out between everybody. But we will do that certainly before those dates are reduced.
I think we're meeting.
We're meeting there next month, anyway, so that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, now, Mr. Saracen.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Good to see everybody. Good news is, there is no request. So, I had intended initially to possibly have a request, but I got a couple of things I wanted to mention at the outset. I wanted to give you an update on something we're working on that we'll be discussing with you at a future meeting. I'm going to tell you something you all already know. Your staff, including Jennifer Russian, are incredible to work with. So we bounced a few things off of her, and at a future meeting, I believe we have a plan that you all will appreciate very much about the process of registration versus licensing for certain types of employees, to include things like food and beverage and the like. It's good for the community, it's good for job creation, it's good for recruitment, it's good for hiring. we identified, one of the things that's kind of cool about Saracen, we have people that have worked all over the country in gaming, and New Jersey was traditionally known as the most onerously regulated state. And so when I have a New Jersey executive or director tell me, man, we didn't even have this rule in New Jersey, I always circle it. So we've got something we've been working on. You all have had enough weighty matters for today. We'll handle that at a later meeting, but just some foreshadowing that I think we've got something that'll make sense. And Mr. Kimball, you'll like this. I believe it will be helpful to the cash fund as well. Number two, I want to give you a quick update on what we're doing at Saracen. Of course, the sports betting product has consumed an unnatural amount of our time as compared to what it means on the balance sheet, but it sure is fun. I was thinking this morning I'm going to be at the game in Dallas, and there are going to be a lot of people who are accustomed to betting sports that are going to have to figure out the hard way they can't bet sports from the stadium and Jerry World. But it's going along just as we'd hoped. Things are going well. I think our advertising is everywhere. Our name's everywhere. The same for the Bentley product and for Oaklawn Sports. So I'm tickled that we've all managed to get this up. And to date, I think everything has been working well. I wanted to mention that in terms of construction of Phase 2, this week we had a kickoff call between our general contractor, Flintco. We selected the same vendor that built the fabulous facility in Hot Springs, Oklahoma, to do our work for us. We'll be using the same architect that we used for the primary property, and interestingly, that was used for the incredible facility in Hot Springs, HPG. So we had our kickoff meeting with city officials, zoning, fire, wastewater, et cetera. We are still battling the supply chain issues, steel, I'm told 26 weeks for banquettes, 5X what was originally priced for sheetrock, all the things you guys know. I was on the phone with one of our bankers the other day, and he mentioned to me, as an Arkansas bank, that they were adding a small addition to a bank in Magnolia, and the variance was so high that it rose to the board level to consider basically building a room on a bank branch in Magnolia. But that tells you what you need to know. But we're proceeding, and I expect that what we will probably do is get through the dry season and then go vertical. You may see some pre-construction activity early on. We've changed the scope significantly, adding about 440,000 square feet, which means some of that concrete we originally poured for the event center is going to have to be changed. So we're looking at about a $5 million dig them up and fix them project. But you'll see some activity pretty quickly on property. And again, I think the most evidence I could give you is we had our kickoff call this week. So I just want to keep you posted on the progress on that. We hadn't forgotten about it. Appreciate it. Finally, I'll tell you, we do a lot of fun things down there, and this probably isn't even commission business, but I just want to mention it. I know this room well enough to know that y'all like barbecue. One of the signature events of Pine Bluff was Arkansas's largest barbecue competition. It was called Smoke on the Water, and it's become a national event. And for whatever reason, a number of years ago, they stopped doing it in Pine Bluff. And I am obsessive about finding things that were once bright spots of Pine Bluff and trying to bring them back. So we worked with Simmons Bank, with Reliance Bank, with Macris's distribution company, and most importantly, Sissy's Log Cabin, and we're bringing it back. So it'll be the biggest barbecue event in Arkansas history. You'll have to go to Memphis in May to find something any larger. This is not an advertisement for the event, but I know y'all like to know what we're doing. I also know y'all like barbecue. So next month, you will have competitors from all across the country. We've got them coming in from Wisconsin and California and New York, and they'll be at Saracen. And the winner will be crowned the Arkansas State Champion. It is the biggest sanctioned barbecue event in Arkansas history. So if you want to come see us, I'll see if I can get y'all some tasting passes or judging passes. So not commission business, but we're barbecue fans in this room. So, but I think it's also a statement about the things we do. I'm not sure if it makes a bit of difference on the bottom line. I actually asked our planning and analysis guy not to look at our investment as a return on investment, because we know that it may not make sense for the business, but it makes sense for Pine Bluff.
Makes sense somewhere. I used to go to Caesars, had one every year, so I mean, you're just following Caesar's footsteps.
I'm happy to follow Caesar's footsteps. We do have another issue which comes in later on the report, which I think is kind of fun. It's something I began working on last year. I think I called Smokey from Las Vegas last October when we first started working on this, and I'll let Miss Jennifer speak to it, but we have some folks from IGT here as well. So I don't want to skip forward in your own agenda, but that concludes me, and I guess would move us to 5. I guess what I'm saying is I'm ready to shut up.
Well, we appreciate the presentation and the update. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Now, I know what you're talking about. is talking about number 5, consideration approval of IGT wide area progressive system. And IGT, they used to have, what did they call it years ago, Jeopardy or something like that? They had a.
Wheel of Fortune?
Wheel of Fortune, that's what it was.
And that's exactly what we're talking
That's what
about.
they're bringing.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone, this is Jennifer Rushing with Casino Gaming Section. I'm here today to ask the commission's approval to start wide area progressives in the state of Arkansas. We've had the rule in our casino rule book since 2019. It's 12.045, inter-casino linked systems. And what these are, they are slot machines that are linked to other states' slot machines, and you get the larger jackpots at the top, and the vendor is responsible for the payout of the large jackpot if it does hit here. I have IGT here. They are ready to present to you exactly how the system works and what it would entail in the state of Arkansas. For us, it would just be a matter of you guys saying yes or no to whether we could go live with it. Saracen is actually the casino that is asking to bring it, but it would be available to all the casinos to utilize. So I think I'll let Carlton speak on how they intend to use it and market it, and then we'll let IGT, this is Michelle, Joe, and I know you guys know and on, and let them present to you exactly how it works. And if you have any questions for me, I've been reading the GLI letters and reading their internal controls on how they account for the monies and pay out and their money securities and all of that. And so we're ready to go live. We're ready to regulate it and make sure they're in compliance with our rules. So it's just up to you guys if you think Arkansas is ready for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer.
It's me again, Carlton Savage for the record. Just briefly, we were intrigued at the idea of doing this. Some of y'all may remember the old Megabucks machines you used to see in Las Vegas. I was kind of brokenhearted when I found out Megabucks is only a Nevada link. But we intend to bring in primarily the Wheel of Fortune product, which is far and away the most popular. IGT's platform is considered the industry standard. I was explaining to a gentleman at the FNA this morning that we were working on this, and he said, "You mean like Wheel of Fortune?" I said, "Exactly like Wheel of Fortune." But your rules allow for this, they always have. My understanding of your rules are that actually this technically is not any different in terms of regulatory approval than the following 4 pages of names that you have. We ask that it be agended as a separate item because we try to be as clear and transparent as we can with it. That while this is just another game approval that comports with your rules as it exists, we wanted to make it clear that this is a new type of game, even though technically it's really not any different than anything else. But we're excited. We will begin to tell Arkansas as soon as we can get these machines in, assuming you all approve this, that our machines will quite literally be linked to the Las Vegas Strip. And that's what Amendment 100 has allowed us to do. Pre-Amendment 100, this would not be possible. And today, now that Arkansas is a real casino gaming state, we're excited to bring things like this to Arkansas casino patrons.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions, Carl, before you?
I would say thank you. A lot of these folks have flown in today to be available for any technical questions you might have.
One of y'all would just give us an explanation of how that works.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Joe Moore. I'm with IGT. I've been with IGT for 20 years.
Jim Moore.
Moore. M-O-O-R-E. I'm responsible for our wide area progressive systems. I manage these systems in the domestic U.S. and also in Canada. The product itself is pretty powerful. It provides the capability to offer life-changing awards on a casino floor. These are the $1 million jackpots. So, along with the really sensational brand of Wheel of Fortune, players get an opportunity to win a jackpot that quite literally could change their life. Our intention with Saracen is to offer 4 different links for them. The Wheel of Fortune $5, Wheel of Fortune quarters, our Wheel of Fortune Deluxe link, as well as our new Money Mania link. And this means it really provides a jackpot for all types of players that are out there. So the Money Mania link is a much more rapid hitting, much more penny-based player type game. And then we're going all the way up to the $5 player where you're looking at the $1 million plus awards. So it's 4 different types of jackpots. The system itself links Nevada, New Jersey, South Dakota, and Louisiana together. And that really Iowa, not South Dakota. I was thinking Native American. But those 4 states today are all participating in a liquidity share for those 4 leagues.
You said Nevada, New Jersey,
Iowa.
what else?
And Louisiana. Yeah. With those 4 states combined, all that play not only gives us the capability to offer these life-changing awards, but it makes the jackpots hit much faster. And that's really the power of this type of a solution, and it really something that benefits the players and the operators. From an operator perspective, you can now have a life-changing award that you can advertise on your floor, and then most importantly, be able to take credit for creating that millionaire on your floor. We work aggressively with operators to make sure that they get all the marketing buzz, to make sure that when a life-changing award takes place, they get all the marketing push that comes with it. And the second thing is just great for the players themselves. To walk onto a casino floor in Arkansas and see the exact same jackpot that's available on the Strip in Las Vegas is a really powerful thing. We connect all of these systems together with our own proprietary network. We monitor the system 7/24/365, and we have a fault-tolerant network with an automated failover. So if anything were to happen to our primary system, we immediately go to our backup system. IGT stands ready to pay these jackpots, even if they hit back-to-back. We've done it before, and we love it. If we could have 2 millionaires created in the same instance, we think that's a wonderful opportunity for the operator to advertise the power of these jackpots. And been doing it for a very long time. I guess the only thing I would say is within your rules, the existing rules that you have today, there are 3 different types of financial instruments that you allow us to use. Those would be cash, treasury strips, and surety bonds. Our preference would be that we could use the 3rd, surety bonds, because that's uniform with how we're managing all of the other monies for the other 4 participating states. And I'll leave it open if there's any questions.
I'm not sure I understand the use of the surety bond. Could you explain that?
So for each of the jackpots that I mentioned, IGT is on the hook to pay those jackpots. We use a variety of different financial instruments to build a reserve for each one of those so that when they hit, we have the monies available. So surety bond is our preference. That's the only reason we make that.
Surety bond is simply purchased through an insurance company or a financial institution.
Bank of America, financial institution.
So IGT pays, does the payouts?
Yes, that's true.
That kind of put IGT on the map years ago when they first came up. It was, I can remember it when it must have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, the mid-90s, Megabucks, which was mentioned before by my colleague at Saracen, and yeah, that's still present today. Megabucks is the world's largest slot machine jackpot with a reset of $10 million.
So how does the money flow from IGT to the casino?
We establish wire transfer instructions ahead of time with what we call the wire rapid payment program. It's not a mandatory program, it's a discretionary program. We also can just offer a check if they prefer to do it, but we found that doing this allows us to do the initial payment to the winner in very fast fashion. That allows the operator to celebrate with the winner, provide them champagne, let them do different types of things on property with their friends, and immediately put money in the winner's hands. The rest of the award is paid after an election. Most of these are a 20-year annuity. We do have an instant win on the Money Mania product, which is $100,000. So yeah, I mean, we establish those instructions ahead of time for anyone who takes our product, so we can immediately fund the operator. And a lot of times operators will make an initial payment and then they'll use our wire transfer as reimbursement so we can celebrate with the player.
So how does the casino, Carlton, what's in it for the casino?
I was actually kind of looking for a place to step up.
I
Because
get bashful.
I get your question. I'm certainly not bashful, right? Okay, so the best analogy I can give you, and
was talking to Scott before the meeting, so I'm gonna explain it the same way I did to him. It's kind of like the lottery. It reminds me of my old days in the lottery. And Smokey, I know you'll remember this. So when somebody buys a scratch-off ticket at the lottery pays that amount, right? And money into the lottery, money out of the lottery. When somebody buys a Powerball ticket or a Mega Millions ticket and it hits, that money, it comes through the lottery, but not really. It's Powerball and Mega Millions money that is then funneled in. I remember vividly, there was a $1 billion jackpot, and there was a legislative question in a hearing that said, if somebody hits that, how are we gonna pay that? We don't have $1 billion in reserves in the state. So to answer your question directly, how does it benefit the casino? We talked once in sports betting about 80-20 being a standard lease arrangement. The operator keeps 80, the slot company keeps 20, and y'all of course remember the corollary was of much controversy. The details of this are more for an accountant, but essentially, let's use that model for round numbers. If 20% goes to the vendor, 80% goes to Saracen on a leased product. In something like this, there's a percentage that's held back to pay the jackpot. So let's just make up numbers. I'm sure these are not accurate. 80%, 20%, standard lease. These are leased games. Let's call it 30%, 70%. I'm sure those aren't right. But that 10% number in there is accrued to pay the jackpots. That accrual is actually held by IGT. And then the money is paid from IGT in the event of a jackpot. So we still make money in the event that the player loses. In the event that the player wins, the money is covered by our big brothers in IGT who are working with us in many, many states. So, does that answer your question? Kind of?
We have a surety bond to
Yes,
back that up.
we do. But it's like Powerball.
But the main thing is the 80-20, you don't violate that where we were talking about.
No, we're in no way in violation of any of that. I just use it as a reference. It's another fee structure on the way that the revenues are split. And, you know, they pull out a certain amount of it to put it in a bucket in the event that the jackpot hits. And they manage that because if we were holding our own accrual for the jackpot, and the jackpot hit at the Bellagio, that wouldn't make any sense. So the operator of the system holds the jackpot funds. I hope that's basically right.
That is right.
And I'm sure there's a lot of logarithms involved with IGT and how they forecast. Is that accurate?
To his point, I think, yeah, I mean, every jackpot has its own cycle. It's all, you know, every time you pull the handle, you have the same likelihood of winning. The outcome is determined by the game. And it reports back to the central system whether or not it was a winner or it wasn't a winner. We've had systems hit really early. We've had systems hit back to back. When the jackpot gets high, I love the lottery analogy. It's the same as when Powerball number gets big. Players are savvy. They know where the jackpots hit before. So you really see a lot of energy go into the casinos. And as the jackpot grows, more and more people are trying to get on those games and play those games. And then, of course, when you're talking about an interstate system, that type of frenzy happens faster because there are more states contributing to the single jackpot.
How much play, excuse me, how much play do you get? Quite a bit more play on these machines than normal slots?
So, yes, you do. I think at the beginning, right after a jackpot hits, you have what's called a post-frenzy dip. So play comes off a little bit once the jackpot is very similar to the lottery. Once the lottery's hit, you see play levels or ticket levels go down. But then as the jackpot starts to grow, especially as players start to see where previous hits have taken place, you see that momentum start to pick back up again. And for every day we don't have a winner, we have a more vigorous player the next day. Yeah, we think that interstate is one of the best ways to really kind of keep the jackpots healthy, keep the meters running quickly, because it's about pooling all of the play from many different casinos into a single pool.
So New Jersey would probably have more plays than Arkansas, correct?
Yes, that's true. In Nevada, even more than New Jersey.
Do you publish odds like the lottery does?
It's proprietary confidential information to us. It's probably one of the most closely guarded components of our product, but we could make that available under NDA for sure.
There was a horse owner that used to, what was it, King Entertainment, because they had to deal with Wheel of Fortune brothers. They're dead now, but that's just a different story.
How much money goes to the Wheel of Fortune?
That was the King people.
Is that the King?
It's our expense.
Was that Merv Griffin?
No, it wasn't Merv Griffin. I cannot remember the guy's name.
Sure.
They had the Oprah Winfrey and all that stuff. They hit it all at one time.
Oh.
And then I think they blew it in the horse business.
Oh, wow.
Well, that explains it.
So it's eventually gonna come back to the horse racing anyways. I'm sorry, your question was, Mark?
Oh, the odds are proprietary and held secret, closely held secret.
Yep.
Just spin it.
Spin it.
Right, just spin it.
Yep. Can't win if you don't play, but don't lose your shirt.
Well said. Anybody else have questions?
I have a question. I think Commissioner Lambert brought up some good points, and like, what is the role of IGT in this? Is it kind of sounds similar to, the sports book thing we had, Byron, with different vendors out of state and all that deal, the difference again with DraftKings and FanDuel. Is this totally different than that? Just totally, as far as, you have an out-of-state vendor situation and all that stuff, so we wouldn't be stepping on our own toes.
I think that Sarah's would have a contractor agreement with IGT. What we're asked to approve is the operation of the game in Arkansas. So Saracen is offering the product, which is legal under Arkansas law, but they have an agreement with IGT on how the game pays off and how it's operated.
Commissioner Post, if I can.
Sure.
I exactly get your question, because I made many of those arguments before you all. I think this is very different. We have tons of IGT units on our floor. I don't know the counts at Southland and Oaklawn, but I would assume tons as well. It'd be a very technical, accurate term there, tons. We have their devices all over our floor now. Many of the IGT products are so popular, they're not able to be purchased, like the Wheel of Fortune products. Those are lease products. They won't sell them to us. We'd love to buy them. These guys won't sell them to us because they're too valuable. So they operate on an 80-20 rev share. And those lease decisions are not made like you would in a business where you look at a piece of heavy equipment and say, do we want to buy this or do we want to lease this? It's a non-starter. We're not able to purchase these devices because they're so popular and they drive play. This is really just an extension of that. Their role is as the system operator to take a bit larger step into linking all of the machines. But outside of the fact that they control the link and escrow the money to pay the jackpot, it actually is pretty similar to what we have going on at all properties right now on 80-20 lease arrangements.
That gets us over the hump where earlier, when we were going through the sports betting, I cannot remember the percentages exactly.
51.
51. So we're well above.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will tell you too, maybe this is a bit editorial, but again, with the adoption of Amendment 100, we became a real casino state. We certainly had casino-like gaming. This product is ubiquitous in what I would consider real casino states. So this is very much a normalized product in just about every state in which you have casino gaming. So I know it seems like this is an odd ask. Maybe I did this to myself because I suggested it be its own agenda item, but I thought we ought to have this conversation for you all to know that we were seeking approval of a game that's a little different than has been introduced. And we're proud to add a new option to the mix for Arkansas casino operators, and proud that we led the charge on this one. Oh, does that answer your question?
Really, as long as Byron's good with it in our rules, I have no objection.
The problem we had, we said that the sports wagering where people were gonna have 50% or more. That's not the case here.
Right.
That was an issue that we resolved.
Yeah, I just didn't, that's one he brought up, I didn't want to trip over one of our old rules, and this does not. And IGT is, I mean, if there's the, used to be able to say IBM or something, I don't think you won't even say IBM anymore, but anyway, well thought of in the industry. Any other questions? Jennifer, do you think of anything else?
Oh, I just want to reiterate that the same thing Paul just said, we do have, Progressives and other IGT machines and other vendor machines on our floors right now that are on a share agreement. But Arkansas gets 100% of the tax revenue, 13% off from the properties directly. We do not get tax from these vendors. It comes from Fairson, and this would be the same way. The machines that are on the property in Arkansas, we would get our 13% tax rate before these point out in the net win on said machine. So it would not impact that at all.
Should the motion be to approve IGT's request for a wide area progressive system?
I would probably just go ahead, if you guys agree, because there are other vendors that all offer wide area progressives besides just IGT. So if you would just agree that we were gonna allow us to begin using Rule 12.045 and have wide area progressives for the state of Arkansas, that way it doesn't limit it just to the IGT vendors.
If someone coming in, they have to prove the vendor.
Right, no, we must, I think, like, I know we have at least 2 more licensed vendors that offer wide area progressives, but the other properties may wanna use their product rather than IGT.
Does it need a motion? And how do you want that worded? It goes, consideration approval IGT's wide area progressive system. Does it leave it like
I
that?
think we were approved use of
We do
the wide area progressive system.
and leave IGT out.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did that.
you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then IGT, we need to approve them as a vendor.
They're already
approved.
Okay, they're already approved.
So, Ms. Jennifer, you're on board with this? Let's
Yes.
cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Me and my team are ready to regulate and make sure that they are in
Save a lot of
compliance with our
time.
rules. We have already set up that we're gonna get contribution reports monthly from IGT so that we know how much money went in and out and how much money they're putting in reserve for this. So we're ready.
Mr. Chairman,
Got the good housekeeping.
we got a
seal
good
for it.
housekeeping, so I'll make that motion that Ms. Jennifer is on board with it, so I will make the motion that we approve the wide area progressive system.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Lambert. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you. I have a second, Mr. Pope. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, make a note. Passed unanimously.
Second on that?
Okay, now we're going to consideration approval of license games. I'm gonna let you run through those, Smokey.
Up this median.
She's got some more on here.
Yeah, for the consideration approval of company license, 4 at the top on number 6, William Ryan Group, Shrill USA, Simple Bet, and Optics. William Ryan Group is a holdover renewal that didn't get to me till June, but I'd like for them to be approved for 2022. Skrill is a payment processor for the mobile sports betting app. Simple Bet is an odds provider, and Optics is a player tracking programming. So I reviewed all their applications, they submitted all their fees, and I'm requesting approval for them, for the company licenses.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. Do I have a motion that we approve the license?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Post. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. We're gonna be in trouble if you ever.
At least 15 more years.
Yeah, okay. Now we've got consideration and approval of games.
Yes, so there's 169, I believe, on here. Go this one at
Holy
a time,
smoke.
Smokey?
You played every one of these?
One at a time? No.
You and Nikki played
One
all-
page at a time. But they meet the qualifications for the state, and like all the games that we approve, the state does benefit from monetary. Appreciate y'all approving. Jennifer knows them, and she's approved.
She's approved it.
A lot of new games.
That, okay, do I have a motion that we approve the new, games?
Motion to approve the games.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Post.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Have a second from Mr. Lambert. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Okay, other business. Are we missing anything? audience that hadn't said a lot, so are we leaving anybody out, somebody wants to say something? No? All right?
Mr. Chairman, could I, HISA whip rule, I've been reading a lot about. And one of the things that gets my attention is the purse forfeiture provision. Is that dictated by HISA, or is that a state? So the HISA regulations dictate purse forfeiture.
Yes.
So if a horse wins a Breeders' Cup Classic, and they're gonna be counting every whip strike, I mean, there are gonna be people all over the United States counting every whip strike. So
Be like watching a
if
putt.
they exceed the whip strike, the owner's gonna lose the $3 million winner's purse.
There's so many unintended consequences with this deal. Well, the problem we're gonna have is how many vets is gonna be required to pull this deal off. And I don't know if anybody's really aware of, but not a lot of vets are going into big animal practices anyway. I mean, it's gone progressively straight down. And like we used to advertise for the dog track in Memphis, we wouldn't even get a reply. So let's treat our big animal vets very nicely, because we're gonna need a lot more of them. And I don't know where they're gonna come from with this system. HISA, or HISA. Yes, but I think it was, where did they think it was, at Saratoga?
It's been a couple, it's been one in California, I believe.
We've had a little activity like that in Arkansas. You know, we passed a couple of years ago. We got it all resolved.
But I don't think ours ever affected the purse, it was just the jockey,
It
didn't
all
it?
been resolved.
And, but my wife keeps saying, she said, how are they gonna, I said, that somebody's gonna make a living doing it, counting. So, does anybody else have any business? Thank you. Say a couple things, next week, or next month is what day in Memphis? What's the?
27th.
27th? Okay. At 11 o'clock?
Well, good attendance over there, y'all. Those of you who have not been to Southland Casino and Resort are gonna be very impressed. It's quite a facility. These guys got it going on. It's really doing well over here.
It is something I would, see. Yeah. And I plan on, I don't drive to West Memphis very often, so I'm probably gonna fly over there and have room, anybody wants to hitch a ride is fine, up to a point. And that also goes, let me tell you something, if we got some mechanical issue or something needs replaced, parts, you know, if you lose a windshield, you're grounded for 6 months. So, let me say that, but y'all just holler at me as we get closer to it. And it's a 15-minute flight, and it sure beats that drive.
It looked like Afghanistan when they were taking that big airport jet down the runway.
That's fun, so, okay. We don't have anything else. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second. Got Mr. Lambert moved, Mr. Post second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. We're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is, time to get over. I don't know if they're going to. We might ought to add anything, but they want to take a sign and get it off.
Oh, yeah,
Makes sense.